All right, good morning, everybody. Today is the infrastructure panel. First one of the session, so everyone should be awake. Coffee is hitting. Very happy to be here. My name is Rishi Jain. I am a managing director at Cross River Infrastructure Partners. We are building a nuclear project developer focused on new builds and such in New Brunswick, which is a province here in Canada, which a lot of you seem to forget. It is a nuclear province, and I'll talk more about that. Want to thank Melody and the whole CNIC team for this fantastic conference, and would love to start with introductions from our esteemed panel. So why don't we go with you, Ghadeer?
Okay. Hi, my name is Ghadeer Hall. I'm the executive director of the Sylvia Fedoruk Canadian Centre for Nuclear Innovation, representing isotope production out in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. We have a cyclotron, and we also have hot cells. We do contract drug manufacturing. So nice to see you all here.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ghadeer Shubassi, and I'm the Vice President of Business Development at AtomVie Global Radiopharma. Thank you, Neil, for introducing us, and Joe set the scene very nicely for AtomVie, which is a Hamilton-born and raised success story, currently globally recognized as the #1 leading CDMO for the GMP manufacturing of radiopharmaceuticals for clinical and commercial supply, as well as its global distribution. Nice to see you all.
Thanks. My name is Peter McDermid. I'm the Director of Isotopes at Bruce Power. For those who don't know, Bruce Power is an 8-unit nuclear site on the shores of Lake Huron in Tiverton, Ontario. We produce a lot of clean, affordable electricity for the province of Ontario, roughly 6.5 gigs in terms of a capacity. However, we also produce cobalt-60, which we've been doing for over 40 years, and our partners for that is Nordion, based in Canada, Ontario. And in the last 3 years and 7 months and 2 days, who's counting? We've been producing lutetium-177 for our partners Isogen, which is a 50-50 joint venture between Kinetics and Framatome. And I'm responsible for the commercial management of those relationships. So thanks for having me.
We also want to thank Bruce Power for the amazing socks that we always get in the swag bag.
Yeah, actually, funny story on that. The new socks in the bag are crew style, and I had to tell the comms team, like, no one likes dress socks anymore. I don't know if you guys know that, so FYI.
Morning, everyone. My name is Drew Leyburne. I'm the Assistant Deputy Minister for Energy Systems with Natural Resources Canada, the federal department. In practical terms, that means I'm responsible for most of our energy policies, including electricity, and then, of course, as a subset of that, working on a nuclear strategy for Canada, which obviously touches on isotopes as part of it.
So Drew's with the government, and he is here to help. Maybe we could actually go straight into you, Drew. Maybe you could describe how isotopes work in terms of who has that file in the government, and then maybe a little bit of a sneak preview of what's coming?
Sure, yeah. Well, the short answer is it crosses a few federal departments. So specifically, I'm kind of responsible for the policies relating to the nuclear reactor side of radioisotopes, not so much on the accelerator side. But for that, we've got the Ministry of Industry, ISID, who is a major sponsor and supporter of isotope innovation through the Strategic Response Fund, which has contributed significant funding to CMIE. We're also major funders into Triumph, and just historically recognize the economic development aspects of that. And then, of course, there's Health Canada, who is a regulator as well in the isotope space across the broad suite. I would say from an NRCan and an ISID perspective, we're looking at not just the medical application of isotopes, but broadly all the, whether it's agriculture and food, or industrial, or quantum, or any of the other multi-purpose reasons that you might be interested in isotopes.
All right, thanks for that, Drew. If we could come down the line, starting with Peter, talk about what new builds or increased capacity capabilities are coming down the line for each of us.
Yeah, not a problem. So we installed so just to take it back a little bit, we've been producing cobalt-60 for quite some time, since Bruce B started. And we were doing sterilization grade cobalt that whole time until about 2016, where we implemented a novel way to produce medical grade cobalt, which our first harvest was in 2019. The reason why I bring that up is that really kind of accelerated our want and our move towards medical isotope production at Bruce Power in terms of irradiation services. And in 2019, we signed our agreement with Isogen to design, install, and an isotope production system, which went on our Unit 7, which is on our Bruce B, in our Bruce B station. We installed that in late 2021, and as I mentioned, we went commercial in late 2022. We've been producing lutetium-177 very reliably, no missed shipments, while Unit 7's been at high power. And our partners at Isogen have been wonderful in supporting that. Our operation is extremely reliable. And in 2024, we were able to double our production with a second production line. We call it a target finger tube. You shouldn't let engineers name stuff like that, but it's an isotope production line. So we've doubled that in Unit 7. I'd be remiss to not mention that, as Mike Shigano had pointed out, we, in addition to Isogen, we have a partnership with the San, the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, where originally they could earn a return as we produce lutetium, but just earlier this year we expanded that, late last year I guess, expanded that into a full partnership, Gamzukamin, Akazawin, which he had outlined there before. So on the capacity side, actually we are looking to install another system on our Unit 6 reactor next year. And that will essentially provide us, obviously redundancy, as well as that same level of capacity, but on another unit. In addition to, we are just finishing our hot cell on site, which we'll be utilizing for target carrier removal. Our targets get irradiated in a metal carrier. We're going to remove those right on site. They're getting removed domestically right now, and it's working out really well, but we want to improve our logistics and our reliability and our product offering and really be able to get these isotopes to the processing as early as possible. And so, we're looking at that, and we're also exploring new isotopes and what we can produce, and that will be later this year into next year as well.
Peter, does the systems you're installing, do they allow for pivoting between products? Meaning if you want to move to terbium or something?
So the system, technically, yes. However, and as we should be, we're regulated through the CNIC. And as a commercial reactor, our license is stringent in terms of what we can produce. So each isotope we have to produce, we would need to amend our license to. Bruce Power is currently approved to produce cobalt-60 and lutetium-177. We're looking to amend that license. We have a great working relationship with the CNSC, but as everyone here would like, obviously in this room, a commercial reactor needs to make sure that we can demonstrate the safe efficacy of that irradiation as well as the safety of the operations staff and whatnot. And so the system is quite flexible, that the answer is yes, but we need to go demonstrate the CNSC how we can do it safely, just like we did with lutetium, and which we will.
Amazing. Thank you, Peter. Ghadeer, would you?
Thank you, Rishi. So it's important to start with our capabilities first, and I would like to highlight that AtomVie leverages more than 15 years of experience that we've built at CPDC, our mother company, which is a center of excellence that was founded at McMaster University. And leveraging that worldwide known reputation of McMaster Nuclear Medicine comes CPDC, where we started building the CDMO unit in 2014 that now became AtomVie Global Radiopharma. So we knew that we have the expertise. We have built that in-house. It's not trivial to manufacture these high-quality RLT drugs. And by building that together, not just manufacturing, but also being able to manage the logistics. So the global distribution of these products is also extremely important for the success of our business. So having that combination under our belt really set us up to start thinking about what the future holds. And we decided to seize an opportunity here because we knew that the number of commercial drug products, and we've seen some of those examples in Joe's slides earlier, are growing. Yet the capacity is tight, and the number of CDMOs that can do this type of manufacturing, not only on the clinical but also on the commercial side, is limited. Right? And so not only the number of CDMOs that do this very well, such as AtomVie. So thanks to our CEO, Bruno Pequin, he went out there in 2020, 2021, and he was successful in raising the Series A funding that started the story of AtomVie. At the time was over 90 million, and today we sit over 160 million in funding that is dedicated to building our state-of-the-art facility, also in Hamilton, 72,300 square footage, more than 5 times of what we currently operate at McMaster. And we are envisioning that that's going to expand our capacity by more than 10 times because we knew that the number of products that need the manufacturing expertise is increasing. And the momentum of where the growth of this market is extremely at a high. So we've seized this opportunity. We've succeeded in building, constructing our facility that is now currently being commissioned. And we really are very excited to fit the future vision that we have, which is not only supporting clinical manufacturing of all phases, 1, 2, 3, which we currently do as we're still operational at McMaster, but also going commercial and preparing for that, high-scale vision that we have for commercial radiopharmaceuticals to come.
That was a fantastic answer. Thank you, Ghadeer.
Thank you.
Dr. Hall, should we move on to your capabilities? And
Yes, happy to. So, as you were a little surprised, we have isotope production in Saskatoon,
I was
Saskatchewan.
surprised.
We have a 24 megavolt cyclotron at the Fedoruk Center. I also want to call out the fact that we have a linear accelerator right across the pathway, hosted by the Canadian Light Source as well, focused on medical isotope production. At the Fedoruk Center, we can take some of these materials, and we operate really as a user facility, so we're fairly unique in that folks can come in to target development. We've worked with Canadian Nuclear Laboratories and Actinier on radium target development for actinium production. We can also host small companies as well to come in and use some of our spaces, either the hot cells, the cyclotron as well for purifying isotope, even going all the way to drug manufacturing for clinical trials. We're fairly new, so we built the cyclotron in the middle of the last decade, brought up FDG production to support our provincial diagnostic program at the end of the last decade, and now we're really focusing on supporting research both in industry and in academia in diagnostic imaging, and we're trying to really move into the therapeutic space as well. Yeah.
So Saskatchewan is punching above its weight in a lot of ways and in a lot of areas, so that's fantastic to see.
Yeah, we're very much trying to.
Okay, that's fantastic. Now, for our part, we, as I mentioned, we're a project developer for nuclear. We are the development partner for the Eden reactor. They are putting their first reactor down in New Mexico. It was a specifically designed isotope reactor in anticipation of Chalk River end of life. And so the DOE said, where the heck do we get our moly from? There's no domestic supply, as we all know. It's a very brutally fragile supply chain. And the idea is that we want to put a second reactor in New Brunswick to create full N+1 or N-1, however you want to say it, supply chain resiliency, but also to create, in case there's another tariff tantrum, to allow for non-US buyers to feel secure in their supply while providing that redundancy and resiliency. So with that said, maybe, and this is an open question for the panel here, we can talk about, while we already have strong isotope production facilities and capabilities, where do you guys, and this is open to everybody, see potential holes or gaps that need to be filled, or onshoring, if we can, domestic capability building in the supply chain? Anyone could put their...
I can start. I think, from my point of view, I think that Canada is differentiated in the fact that we have a legacy in isotope production, and we're leaders in this field. I think we have all the pieces here. We have expertise not only in the isotope production, and the gurus are here in this audience, but also we have manufacturing, we have logistics, we have PACER here. And we have all the pieces of the value chain that we need to make it a success story. I think what we need is to get a bit more integrated and to maybe start collaborating and working more together. And I do think that's sort of what Joe made as a point in his slide, is that Canada has it all, but we just need to somehow, make our strengths work together. And I believe we're getting there, but I think we need to expedite the speed so that we're able to compete globally at the pace that Radiopharma needs to, take off so that we can reach, the levels that we are supposed to reach as Canadians.
And is that lack of coordination something that is because of provincial borders, or is there, what do you think?
Maybe we can get, some government insight here, but I think, just maybe communicating and talking more and awareness of what is taking place in different areas in the value chain so that we can all come together and make ourselves stronger in a way and act as an entity rather than, we are, Canada is a big country and we have lots of strengths in Saskatoon, in British Columbia, New Brunswick, as you said, but how do we make it a more sustainable ecosystem that works well together so that we are fully recognizable worldwide?
Drew, do you have any thoughts?
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to jump in on that. Just, I mentioned earlier that we're developing this nuclear energy strategy. We thought it might be out by now, by the time of this conference, but it hasn't come out yet, but it's imminent, I would say. And it has produced an opportunity for us within the federal family to just think about how to work better together with, as I mentioned, Health Canada and ICID and Transport Canada. There are a number of other federal departments that have an interest in this, not to mention the CNSC and the Waste Management Office and CNL and ACL and all the other players. What I would say is that one of the purposes of the strategy is to project a sense of Canadian nuclear leadership. Isotopes is not just a side business for nuclear. It actually is a major part of what is projecting that leadership. And part of what projects a sense of confidence in your leadership is a continuous investment in innovation. And so certainly from our perspective, the isotope story mostly shows up in the innovation section of the nuclear strategy. It shows up in other places as well. But as a tier 1 nuclear country, one of a handful in the world, this isotope story is an important part of reinforcing that leadership, as I said.
Right. So I'll interject some of my own thoughts here as a project developer. There's never been a project-financed nuclear reactor, right? Every reactor on the continent has ultimately been built by government money first, but that era is largely over, meaning the idea that private capital is going to be blocked out of this is not realistic, right? Now, private capital, and we're talking about infrastructure, which is deeply capital intensive. In the US, the DOE's loan program, Title 17, isotope production is included within a allowed use or qualifying use. That's not true for the CIB currently, which we're working on advocacy with the CNIC. But you have to be able, I think Canada needs to adopt the mentality of saying and I'm saying this as a Canadian, we have to attract global capital, right, to compete and fill in the gaps. And what global capital needs is certainty that the financing or the support programs are objectively there, not subjected to a whim of some politician deciding they don't want this or not, right? So for instance, the hydrogen products that were created is a great roadmap, and the SMR ITC. As you know, that if you make those investments, you qualify for that investment tax credit, right? So those are what I would say is that we really need to attract global capital into Canada and convince that capital that it doesn't just go into the US, and that is a real concern we're working with. So maybe we can come back to how do we think accelerators and reactors sort of complement each other in production, and maybe I can start with you, Ghadeer.
Sure. That's hopefully this mic's working. They handed me a new one. It's kind of a dangerous question. You're asking me. I'm a card-carrying physicist, so we can get deep into production mechanisms, nuclear reactions, but it's clear that the isotopes and the pathways to those isotopes are different between nuclear reactors and accelerators. And so having both of those here in Canada, even the plethora, we have the high energy cyclotron at Triumph, we have a number of intermediate and low energy cyclotrons, we have the amazing CANDU technology that can be used for isotope production, new projects in New Brunswick. So I think having this whole cornucopia of production mechanisms allows us to really be leaders in the full isotope space. That's really the strength that I see. Yeah.
So do you think that so you're, as a model for your facilities, can that be replicated with useful overlap in other provinces to create coverage around the country?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some of that is of course, back to my physicist roots, half-life specific. So for things like fluorine, we do produce fluorine in our cyclotron in Saskatoon. We're only able to really export that effectively to Alberta and Manitoba, but we do that effectively across those two provinces. I think some of the longer-lived isotopes like actinium, we're trying to consolidate that. We're trying to work with Actinier to consolidate that supply chain in Canada. And I think, with something like a 10-day half-life or something like lutetium, you can really consolidate that production in one space and produce that, ship that all across the country. Our researchers in our facility get lutetium, actinium from around the world. They bring it to our facility and start to do preclinical trials with some of that material. So I think it really depends on the half-life, but I think here in Canada, we really can get coverage across the country and really unlock some of that academic potential that Joe was talking about in his talk. With the facilities that exist across the country, we can really unlock almost all of the academics, I think, with the facilities that exist.
Like on the reactor side, obviously it complements there, but I do think there's an important distinction between a commercial reactor like ours at Bruce Power and a research reactor, right? You have different business propositions in the sense of, as I mentioned before, Bruce Power has our license to produce is broader and deeper, whereas in a research reactor typically it might be Bruce Powers will be a little bit more narrowed, and in a research reactor be broader and be able to produce many isotopes, potentially not at the same capacity. I don't want to generalize, but typically speaking, we can produce few isotopes with a significant amount of capacity, and for that capacity, we need to make sure we have, in our sense, as you look to the future, we were looking at those slides of what isotopes are coming next. But when you take a look at lutetium, we've been producing that for quite some time. And our partner in Isogen and their processor, their customer ITM, the processor, they can handle our capacity. So when we look at new ventures and new isotopes, we need to make sure we have a matching processing capability like we do with lutetium. Whereas in a research reactor side, you can have a broader license, you can produce more isotopes, potentially less significant capacity, but a different I guess, business proposition in that sense. So, when you think about the grocery store, you might go to Loblaws, but some days you might go to Costco. And not saying that we're the Costco of lutetium, but if you think about it in that sense, there's this place for everyone in that value chain, right? Whether it's Pusateri's, maybe for some of you, Loblaws, Costco, you have that different product offering. And when we look at scaling up in commercial reactors and we look at new isotopes, we really need to consider not just what we can do, but what we should do on that front. And I think it leaves room in the landscape for many different players, if that makes sense.
So Drew, maybe you can speak from a federal standpoint. When you think about it in the strategy, trying to pry information out of the nuclear strategy, which has not been released. So do you think about it on a sort of from a map perspective and say, here's these different areas where we can get coverage, or here's where this type of isotope could work out because this population needs it, or the logistical connections to the world are there? Or is it really you're just sort of seeing what the market brings forward?
Yeah, I should probably temper expectations a bit and say that the nuclear energy strategy, it's not a funding document. It doesn't specifically say where we're going to allocate dollars. That'll come through other processes. But no, it doesn't go into a ton of detail. It acknowledges the market opportunity. It acknowledges what I think we heard earlier this morning, which is if you build it, they will come, and that there's a lot of upside possible. But no, it doesn't go very deep into the specific applications, mostly because that's outside of NRCan's kind of core competency.
Okay, so coming back to the infrastructure focus of this and looking at the supply chain capabilities, and Peter, maybe we'll start with you and then we can work down the line. Are there areas, for instance, that Bruce, if you had your druthers and said, we want to be able to capture all of the value in Canada, or here's what would make more of our product get to market faster, are there areas that, whether it's logistics, whether it's transportation, whether it's labor, that could be improved or invested into to capture more of the value into Canada? Yeah,
so from our perspective, I mean, our primary business is electricity production. And so when we think about that, we think about reliability. When you turn the lights on, you want the lights, when you flip the switch, you want the lights to come on. And we feel the same way about our isotope production. So when we look at producing new isotopes, and when I say producing, I mean irradiating specifically. When we look at irradiating new isotopes, we want to make sure we're reliable. So it's great that we produce lutetium. I feel great about that. It's great we produce cobalt-60, but we want to make sure that we also do it reliably. Not just that we can do it, we want to make sure that those isotopes are there for eventually the patients in a consistent fashion. So when we look to expand or scale up of what we can do more in Canada, at least at this point in time, our focus will be around irradiation and improving that reliability. So as it looks at new isotopes, not all isotopes are created equal, and handling those are different, and we'll look into investment on that side of it in terms of irradiation and reliability, as in getting those isotopes to the processing and to the patients faster to improve activity and really improve efficiency. Does that make sense?
From our perspective, it's preparation for high-scale throughput. So we are obviously thinking about commercial scale. We know that we could do clinical manufacturing for investigational products that go up to phase 3, but it's a whole new level once you go to commercial scale. So obviously, thinking about what do we need to make that shift is a huge part of planning our new facility and designing it. Our COO is here, and she can tell you that her and her team spent a tremendous amount of time just thinking about how to design this facility from a couple of perspectives. Number one is compliance. Obviously, we need to be GMP compliant, that we know, but it's not just that. We need to be compliant with CNIC, right? That goes without saying, but also with regulatory jurisdictions, Health Canada, FDA, EMA, and so forth. And to make them harmonized in our planning and designing is not trivial, right? And we had to think very carefully and hard about how do we design our facility to accommodate all these compliance requirements. And number two is scale. So obviously, how do we take our capabilities that we currently do all the way up to high throughput? Right, and thinking about automation type of solutions, formations here. We have a CMIE grant with formation. We're thinking about customized automation solutions that could offer high throughput commercial supply of radiotherapeutics. And we are obviously talking to a lot of our clients and have a very good overview and insight into the industry, and understanding their needs and customizing according to their needs. We're educating ourselves day by day to see how we can accommodate those future needs for commercial high scale.
I can just see the edge of the clock here, so pointing the wrong way.
7:15. Okay, from our perspective, I think throughput is one of the things that we're also facing as well. We have one beam coming off of our cyclotron. Through some very gracious funding from CMIE, we're installing another beam line at the end of this fiscal year. That will help our throughput as well. We can see even at the linear accelerator at CLS, they have enough customers that they're already talking about needing another linear accelerator for medical isotope production. And then we get to some of our hot cells for the purification processes, for the drug manufacturing, the clean rooms that are available for that. Our facility is fairly new, but we see ourselves being, fully booked in the next year or two in terms of the capacity. And so it's really looking out to industry, seeing what the real need is, where are the real areas where we can make a big difference, and then going out and trying to find that capital, either with government or with industry as well, to try to build that up as well. I come from the US, so I know some about the DOE system. Although I got Canadian citizenship about 2 years ago.
It's okay. It's okay.
So it's okay.
Everyone exhaled there for a second.
But in the U.S. system, you just talk to one office at DOE, get in their financial plan, and then you can sort of count on funding for a while. Here in Canada, it's very much different. I've been, telling some of my fellow Americans who are moving up here to Canada, that here in Canada, you really need to talk to everybody. As Drew said, there are a number of different agencies that are involved across the pipeline. So making sure you're talking to all of those offices, as well as all your partners, your provincial partners as well, to get everybody on board with a project. It takes a lot more work, but it's actually much more stable once you get everybody there. And it's difficult to stop. If you get everybody aligned with something in Canada, it pretty much moves forward. So, yeah.
So for our part, what we've noticed in New Brunswick, but as a sort of pan-Canadian issue, is there are gaps in the nuclear education as we build out the labor pool, right? And so what we've learned, and actually I learned this last year here, there is no radiopharmacy program, degree program in Canada, right? And that's a problem. So what we are working on with the University of New Brunswick is an MOU for not just operator training and such on this reactor, but bringing such educational programs. For instance, the University of New Mexico has a preeminent radiopharmacy program, which they're excited to help University of New Brunswick, sort of build out that capability. But the sheer amount of nuclear build out means that we risk being as the radio, the isotope industry, you'll risk being swamped from the labor needs by the sheer power build out, right? So the people you need to run these things, if you're not on an isotope reactor, they could get pulled into the power reactors and you're not going to get the labor. So we have time we've got just under 4 minutes left. Let's talk about how we sell this stuff to the world, okay? Are there limitations, hurdles, or anything preventing really Canada being viewed as the preeminent source of radioisotopes in the world? And of course, you have to make yourself, as any commodity, you have to be you can't miss supply, right? You can't miss deliveries, otherwise people look for other suppliers. So we'll start here and work our way down.
So I think that's one key point, is making sure that we have the redundancy in our supply chains here in Canada, so we're not missing anything, any deliveries for, especially once we get to critical patients or some of those clinical trials as well, where we can't be missing doses. So we have to ensure that we have that redundancy in supply. We're able to create that. I think that there are some worldwide shortages that we can really take on here in Canada that could really improve that. And I think you really hit upon, the people, the workforce as being critical. Canada's going to release their energy strategy, and it's probably going to be the our nuclear energy strategy. And it's very much going to be focused on energy. The workforce needs in that program are huge, and so they're really going to be pulling on people in our areas as well. So making sure that we have, the jobs for those people to go into, we attract those people to our space, which I think it's pretty easy to do just because of the health outcomes that come from this space. And I think there's a great interest in the students these days, the high school levels. I just gave a talk at a high school, and the kids had great questions. They knew all the questions to ask about nuclear technologies. And so I think that the system is really primed to help us meet that need. So I think we just need to collaborate together, and we can really take advantage of the supply chain that Joe was talking about.
Perfect, thank you.
Perfect segue, because I was about to mention the workforce and the skill set in Canada is extremely important to keep at home and attract them to stay here. Infrastructure is great, but without people and the right skill set, I mean, it's worth nothing, right? So, and I alluded to my point to you, Rishi, earlier in terms of collaborating and integrating together. I do think capital attraction to Canada needs to continue. I call upon government here to give us a bit more support, because we do see an opportunity here to continue being world leaders in this industry. And just continue with the vision that at the end of the day, we are serving Canadian patients. And the more we attract that in our country, the more patients will benefit, the higher the economy jobs we will have.
Okay. 25 seconds.
Hey, yeah. As much as everyone's esteemed here, this business is not unique to typical economics. Keep your projects on time and on budget. Get your operation efficient and reliable, and keep your costs down to be competitive.
Great, Drew, thank you.
Nice, well done. And I'll just say that leadership that Canada projects on nuclear has partially been established on building things on time and under budget over the last decade in particular, and I think that will help a lot. The hidden story of that was how prepared our workforce was, so kudos to those that were involved. And I would say that as part of the nuclear energy strategy, we are looking at working with UNINI, which is the university network for nuclear, university and colleges, and also looking at a Canadian Nuclear Learning Center.
Amazing, thank you. 3, 2, 1, and we're done. On time. Thank you so much.